a passionate nightly ritual, Jillian bids farewell to her husband Spencer, an astronaut who is set to leave for a space mission. Jillian watches the rocket take off in the morning. A few days later, Jillian gets back to her routine as a teacher. One day, she received a call from NASA. They tell her that the communication is set up and she can send a message to her husband. That night, while Jillian is at home preparing dinner, an emergency broadcast distracts her. The news reports that the shuttle her husband went on has met with an accident. At that moment, a man from NASA called Reese comes to pick her up. He tells Jillian that they are not aware of the actual situation up there. Jillian also meets with another woman named Natalie, who is the wife of the other astronaut on the mission. Their worries come to nothing since it is soon confirmed that the astronauts on the mission are alive. Apparently, the astronauts were doing some repairs outside the shuttle when they had an accident which cut off their communications for a while. The astronauts drifted away behind the shuttle before NASA got back control and got back the shuttle to bring them home. Jillian is worried about her husband, and to reassure them they show the relay of the astronauts returning to Earth. Sometime later, Jillian reaches the hospital where she finds her husband unconscious. The doctor confirms that his vitals are fine and they can only wait until he wakes up. Sadly, Natalie's husband is an older man and the doctor doubts that he may get up anytime soon. The next morning, Spencer finally wakes up and reunites with Jillian. At this time, Alex starts talking about the incident in his sleep and he reveals that they saw something before the accident. He wakes up as Natalie calls out to him, but he starts having a seizure. The doctors rush in to save him, but Alex's condition worsens and the doctors think that they lost him, but they manage to bring him back to safety. Natalie prays for her husband's safety and she turns back to find Jillian and Spencer standing there. A few days later, an event is arranged to award the astronauts. During the event, Jillian tells Natalie that her husband does not talk about the incident as if nothing happened up there. After the event, Spencer tells Jillian that he's quit being an astronaut and has decided to take an executive position at an aerospace firm. He also reveals that the company is in New York and they'll have to move there soon. However, this shocks Jillian because Spencer always hated big cities. Jillian is sad that she has to leave her job and her friends here but still agrees to go with him. While they are having this conversation, Reese observes them from afar. A few days later, the kids throw a little farewell party for Jillian. That night, friends of Jillian and Spencer throw a surprise party for them as well. During the party, Jillian notices that Alex and Natalie are arguing. However, Alex starts kissing Natalie aggressively against her will. When she refuses him, he starts coughing blood. Alex freaks out seeing blood and runs around the party looking for Spencer, but he suddenly collapses and dies on top of a table. The next day, NASA holds a press conference regarding Alex's death. The reporters want to know the cause of Alex's death and if Spencer is in danger as well. But a doctor from NASA assures everyone that Spencer is perfectly healthy and they are looking into the cause of Alex's death. During the funeral, Jillian tries to comfort Natalie, but Natalie insists that something was wrong with Alex ever since he returned from space. Natalie also mentions that they talk to Alex every night. Hearing this, Jillian asks her who they are and Natalie points at the radio. She also says that Alex is hiding inside her. Believing that this is all a consequence of losing her husband, Jillian decides to leave Natalie alone for a while. However, soon the lights flicker and everyone hears a scream. Jillian, Spencer, and Reese follow the noise and find a young girl screaming. She found Natalie had deleted herself using the radio she pointed out. A few days later, Jillian and Spencer are settling down in New York. Spencer's boss throws a party to welcome them, but Jillian feels out of place among all the rich people she doesn't know. But she manages to befriend the boss's wife Shelley. After a couple of drinks, Jillian takes a break and when Spencer comes to check on her, she finally asks him about the accident. At first, he refuses to answer, but Jillian insists on knowing the truth. So he drags her to a private spot and starts describing how dark and cold it was while getting physical with her. He says that he almost died that day, but thinking of Jillian is what kept him alive. They start doing it immediately and decide to continue further at home. However, Jillian doesn't enjoy it very much because Spencer is very rough with her, which he had never done before. In the middle of the night, Jillian wakes up alone in bed. She goes to find Spencer, listening to the radio, playing some static noise. When she calls out to him, he immediately changes the station to some music. He apologizes to her for being rough and blames it on the alcohol. Soon, Jillian starts a new job at a school, but she can't shake off the feeling that something is wrong with her husband. These days, Spencer arrives home late all the time and they don't see each other much. A few days later, Jillian takes a pregnancy test during her break and the test came out positive. However, she isn't happy about it and feels that everything around her is strange. That night, Jillian and Spencer are invited for dinner with his boss, who talks about mysterious signals in space that humans can't hear. Jillian doesn't understand what they're talking about and she continues to feel out of place. When they have a moment alone, Jillian confesses that she feels uncomfortable around these people and points out that Spencer doesn't sound like himself when he talks business. He asks her what's wrong and Jillian uses this chance to reveal to him that she's pregnant and Spencer is very happy to hear the news. The next day they visit the doctor and they are surprised to learn that they'll be having twins. When Jillian gets a moment alone with the doctor, she confesses that after her parents died, she saw hallucinations about people around her dying. She received treatment and got better, but she's worried that the pregnancy will bring it back. The doctor assures her it'll be fine, feelings like this normal during pregnancy. That night, Jillian dreams about Natalie's death, but she sees her own body in the shower. Spencer wakes her up and gives her a bath to comfort her. He says the twins will be as beautiful as their mother and strong like their father. From then on, Jillian starts attending meetings with a support group for women expecting twins. One thing they all mention is how their husbands don't make an effort to understand what they're going through. Back at home, Jillian checks the radio to confirm it's playing music and not static. A few months later at a baby shop, Jillian is approached by a very nervous-looking Reese. He explains he's been going through Spencer's files and noticed some anomalies, like his signature has changed and the numbers on his new medical tests not matching the ones from before the mission. Jillian asks if NASA sent him, and Reese admits that he was fired because everyone thought he lost his mind. Hearing this, Jillian tries to walk away from him, but Reese follows her and reveals that Natalie was pregnant when she died. This catches Jillian's attention, and Reese continues to state that Spencer's and Alex's suits were supposed to have recorders, yet they did not record what happened during the accident. He also mentions that Spencer and Alex are highly trained, that they will not have let any accident occur. This means that something must have happened that they weren't trained for. Reese then asks Jillian if she's sure that Spencer is really her husband and gives her a tape. Right then they are interrupted by a cop, who holds Reese while Jillian leaves the place. At home, Jillian listens to the recording, which ends when Alex and Spencer see something moving toward them. Getting scared, Jillian destroys the tape and throws it in the trash. A few days later, Jillian's sister, Nan, comes to visit her and hears what happened. Nan thinks they should tell Spencer so he can get in contact with NASA, but Jillian asks her to keep everything secret. That night, Spencer and the sisters go to a restaurant. However, Jillian doesn't feel well and Spencer takes her back home. Later at the apartment, Jillian has trouble sleeping. She talks to Spencer and learns that Nan left on her own to have some fun. At this time, Jillian asks him if he ever thinks about Alex and Natalie, and Spencer insists they must leave the past behind and move on to be happy. The next day, Jillian calls Reese to ask for more details and learns that Natalie had been expecting twins too. Jillian has a breakdown hearing this and she explains that she doesn't know if Spencer is the same as when he was before the mission. Reese doesn't want to say much on the phone, so they agree to meet. When Jillian heads to the meeting spot, she's shocked to see Spencer approaching Reese and she decides to hide. They talk for a while and Spencer drags Reese to the nearest cafe. Reese manages to drop his bag for Jillian, but before she can grab it, Spencer takes it first. Afterward, Jillian goes home and has an argument with Nan, accusing her of telling Spencer about Reese. Nan swears she didn't do it and leaves the apartment. Furious, Jillian throws a glass at the radio. Then she tries calling the hotel Reese is staying at, but the receptionist tells her that he is not there. The next time she goes to work, Jillian finds a letter from Reese asking her to be careful, and she also finds the key along with the letter to his storage unit. After work, Jillian goes to the storage unit and finds articles about Spencer. There also are pictures of Spencer that Reese took while following him around the city, and there's also a tape with Jillian's name. When she grabs it, the power goes out and she starts hearing someone running through the corridors. Getting scared, Jillian heads for the exit, but she gets startled by someone who just happens to be the someone working there, who came to turn the power back on. When Jillian returns home, she watches the tape she took from the vault. Reese appears on the screen saying that if she's watching this, it means he's dead. Then he shows her an analysis of the recording of the accident that occurred during the mission. Two different lines represent Alex and Spencer, but there's a mysterious third line that at first appears to be static. Reese has managed to fix the static and transformed it, so now they can hear an alien voice. Reese is sure that Spencer and Alex's bodies were taken over by aliens, and his theory is that Spencer is now building a ship with a new company to bring more aliens to Earth. The blueprints he found show the ship will have two computers in the cockpit feeding into each other, meaning the twins are required to pilot the ship. Suddenly, Jillian is startled by Spencer coming home, but thankfully the recording is over. Spencer has brought a movie to watch together and he finds Reese's tape. Jillian convinces him it's just a video with pregnancy tips and Spencer drops it. While they watch the movie, Jillian asks him about his work project, but he doesn't say much. As they fall asleep on the couch, Spencer dreams of the mission. He and Alex had been working calmly when suddenly Alex started screaming at something coming closer, causing Spencer to freeze. Jillian ends up seeing the same dream. However, when they wake up, Spencer says he didn't dream at all. The next day, Jillian meets with Shelley, who gives her some medicine that can force a miscarriage. Shelley says it'll look natural and nobody will suspect anything. When Jillian gets home, she keeps hesitating and ends up having a breakdown, so she decides not to take the medicine. Suddenly she sees an image of the twins and falls to the floor in unbearable pain, thinking the babies are punishing her. As she spits some blood, Spencer arrives and asks her what she was going to do to the babies, making her realize the twins communicated with him. Jillian tries to explain she wasn't going to do anything, but Spencer slaps her. A terrified Jillian tries running away, but Spencer blocks her way. At that moment, she feels pain in her belly again, and it's so strong that it causes her to fall downstairs. Sometime later, Jillian wakes up in an operation room and sees Spencer for a second before she falls asleep again. The next time she wakes up, she's in a hospital room and Spencer tells her to stay quiet. He tells her that the babies are fine, so for now he'll forget about what she did. Later, when Nan comes to visit, Jillian tries to tell her that something is wrong and that Spencer is hiding inside her, but she ends up falling asleep in the middle of saying it. That night, Spencer reminds Jillian that if the doctors hear about her story, they'll lock her up. He keeps touching her belly and saying he's there because of them. Later at home, Nan finds Reese's bag and starts going through it. However, Spencer catches her and attacks her. As Nan screams in pain, Jillian hears her and runs downstairs to find her sister on the floor. However, at that moment, Jillian wakes up in the hospital. Thinking of it as an omen, Jillian sneaks out of the hospital. She takes a cab and finds another car is following her, so she takes the subway instead. During the ride, she keeps having visions of everything that happened at her home. When Jillian leaves the station, she finds Spencer waiting for her outside, so she starts running. Once she reaches her apartment, she blocks the door with some furniture and checks every room, but Nan is nowhere to be seen. Spencer reaches their apartment and pushes the door until he manages to get inside. He finds Jillian putting the radio into the water, trying to self-delete just like Natalie. He yells at her to stop what she is doing, and he's afraid of getting too close because of the water on the floor. At that moment, Jillian notices the wounds on Spencer's hand and remembers that they resemble the ones caused by Nan when she tried to defend herself in her vision, which confirms that Spencer deleted her sister. When Jillian calls him out, Spencer finally admits to everything and that he is not the real Spencer. Using his connection to the twins, he starts dragging Jillian toward him. However, he is shocked as water starts falling from above. This is because Jillian turned on every single faucet in the apartment before he came. Since Jillian is safely sitting on a stool, she plugs in the radio, electrocuting Spencer. But before she could react, the alien jumps out of Spencer's body and enters Jillian's through her eyes. A few years later, Jillian is married to another astronaut and she is living under a new name in the suburbs. The twins are now healthy kids, who go to school normally, but no one knows the dark secret about them. Jillian says that they hope to become astronauts just like their father. As the kids, they'll be pilots like their father. That is it for this recap. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like to help the channel out. Thanks for watching.